So, hello everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here and to moderate this panel. I learned about this half an hour ago. Christian was very convincing about it. So, thank you for your talks, and I think so as a starter, my first question would be to what does your project or your approach need to be successful and to spread?
Well, for Autocrypt, it's basically, like I said, it's this approach of getting people that are involved in developing mail clients to talk to each other and agree on how to do things. And so what is the success factor is actually this reaching a stable specification. And I think, so, sorry, say the question again, actually, because I'm kind of struggling to...
Yes, so I thought about what does your project need? So perhaps you cannot, you do not have on your own, but perhaps from the outside.
Okay. Actually, it's doing fine. I mean, there's no big need. I mean, we kind of enjoyed our discussions. We are in contact with several other people who want to join. And we have, there's a bot actually, bot at autocrypt.org. You can mail it right now and it sends you back the header already. I think currently we need basically to, not even money or something. Currently it's basically, we just are doing it and trying to get traction within that developer community. And I think, well, when it comes to need, there's one thing actually, I think we could have it would be useful to have a more systematic approach to usability testing, because we just did kind of like some things at our meetup, and we want to get more in contact with people who do this in a more systematic manner. We aim for that for the Internet Freedom Festival, to actually do it there also for these people, and so that's definitely something. We are also collaborating with researchers on how to get things, or I am at least, how to get protection against active attacks, but that's a kind of a future topic, how to do this. Well, I think, I'm sorry, there's not that much. Sorry?
Can I ask a question? So are you self-funded, or is everybody contributing?
Yes.
On their own time?
Yes. I mean, for example, we used the Onion office in Berlin, free of charge. They just said we can just meet there. So that's that. And then we try to arrange, if somebody needs travel funding, we try to arrange for that. And then we don't have anybody who serves us food, you know, so we care for this ourselves. So it's not like high cost or something like this. And we try to stay at private places or very cheap. So it's not like we need, and we can actually, we have opportunities to ask for money, like some foundations or some other people, but that's not the critical factor currently.
So
that's
are you a foundation?
No. It's a loose collaboration between these people. So.
Okay. Thank you.
How many people are you?
It was in Berlin around altogether 20. It's a bit hard to say. I would say, well, people were committing 8 or so, 9, 10, 12 or so. But it's really fresh. I mean, it just, like, the term Autocrypt is like 10 days old, right? So we just got to this in Berlin to say, okay, before it was called in-band opportunistic mail encryption. But in-band is also a drug. And some people actually consider it a good thing and others don't. So. And also Autocrypt is a bit more fitting for like, you know, the thing.
So if we're now already in the questions, so you guys wanna, like you said, like more conference and like, oh shit, more conference and making the RC this level 0. Can you explain this again?
Yeah.
Like so level 0, level 1, what was it again?
I'm rather sorry, we just have 50 minutes, am I right? No.
30.
No, because like, I want to make like another point, but just briefly, just to make sure that I
Yes.
understood.
So level 0, single word usage. Level 1, multi-device usage.
Okay.
And we have plans for multi-device, but we don't want to get the complexity of
So
all
now you're
that
focused
into.
on the level 0.
Yes, that's the first thing in Spring.
Yeah, like one device, not multi-device.
Right.
So, and you want to focus on the actual newer, and you want to focus on the actual usability, and that's beautiful, and thank you for that. Then you want to write the RFC. Like
No.
for then
No.
for the
No RFC, but a specification.
yeah, a specification, sorry. And to get this part, just like the email to like email server, without caring for metadata and whatnot, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, great. So what PEP does, Volker, I mean, it's like something very different.
Yes.
Yeah. So you wanna
I could go on. I have this. I can talk for hours, and I think Volker as well. So it's.
Should we do that?
The thing is, basically, what I mean, level 1 is about. For me, the thing is the following: Autocrypt doesn't have a boss. It doesn't have a company. It doesn't have a foundation. It's a loose group of people discussing things, so whatever I'm going to say is kind of like my perception on what might play out. So I said level 0 and level 1, and we have some convergence actually on what this means. Level 2 is something that is interesting to talk about, and that can also include something like metadata protection. Ideas are, for example, to send, to actually have an alternative mail transport that you advertise within the mail message, within the encrypted part. And that actually is a Tor-hidden service that the other side, if it supports it, if it actually understands this kind of information, it can actually relay the mail through this Tor-hidden service, right? That's one idea for level 2, but not even level 1 is settled, right? So basically we take this incremental approach, and the idea is to actually bring email, like, to make a jump, but without getting some kind of end-to-end encryption like in wider usage. It's going to be difficult to make this kind of jump. So that's the.
But then, have I misheard you? You said I think level 0 is 0 encryption, right?
No, level 0 is not encryption by default, because you are a single device, and we assume that there's many people who are going to use it that also have webmail or other things. And so if we would say the other side should encrypt by default, it would mean frustration on the people who get an upgrade in their, for example, K9. They get an upgrade in K9, and suddenly they get encrypted mail and they can't read it on webmail and say, what is this crap? And somebody says, yeah, it's this Autocrypt stuff, just turn it off.
Okay.
And then people turn it off, and it's like a very bad start,
I want to hear from Volker what his solution, what his proposed solution to this problem is.
To which of them, please answer any of it. Give me a chance,
the
please.
explain us the key thing.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not the key sync. It's you have multiple devices, some support encryption, some don't.
Yes.
Some have PEP, some don't. What happens?
Yes. To be honest, we see even that point different. Because we have the hope that, and that's the reason why it's not like, you start to spread it in one app and that's it. And that makes the project big. So PEP has a very different approach. We are not just a loose coupled community, and I have to explain that. We were thinking through all these approaches too when we started the project, Neal and I. And we had plenty of discussions about exactly that problems, and the only solution we found is that we actually need money. Because, to be honest, it will not work. Because what we actually need is, you need enough possibilities for each user that he or she can encrypt, and it's not harming, because on all major platforms we have a solution, and it's only up to you if you dislike losing your privacy just because you didn't install it yet for that platform. So we just do it the other way around. This is really a big shot what we do. We try to push on all platforms in parallel, which have a major number of users, and that is the reason why PEP is developing things for platforms in the sequence of numbers of users they support. So that is the reason why we totally gave up, you know. To be honest, I'm outing myself here, I'm a MUT user. I don't know if you know that special kind of anyway. For sure there will be PEP in it soon now, because now we have a working Python adapter and I just write a MUT plugin, but it even has no priority. Why not? Because we MUT users are not many, unfortunately. So we start to write it first for the big ones, Apple Mail, Outlook, Thunderbird, and of course also Canine, that's a good thing. And we do that because many, many people are doing that. You know, they're just using those apps. Like it or not, you may dislike that, like me, but your opinion doesn't matter. And the second thing is, from the beginning we have browser plugins in our planning which support encryption for mail in the web, you know, for webmail. And the reason is that most people now today are using even webmail. So even with a big, anyways, you don't reach them anymore. That means we need a concept and we need a solution where we have browser plugins for webmail. Why do we need browser plugins? Why not just JavaScript running in the server? Well, because we all know then you cannot trust that. Because that makes the web server the the deciding entity if what is delivered just after an update, if that thing is trustworthy or not. So you can quickly change the JavaScript and the new JavaScript is fooling you. And just because some entity was taking the web server, right? So we want to keep it peer-to-peer, and that makes browser plugins. And that makes it a big, huge project. And that is why we decided for the solution that we first organize the financing, and then we're really doing it as a big project. Please.
So could I summarize your answer saying you skip Autocrypt level 0 and just go Autocrypt level 1 by saying I'm going global immediately?
Yes, no, I would. Yeah, no, that would be unfair because we started 3 years ago, and that's pretty much unfair, you know, because we started with exactly the discussions we had, to be honest. So I'm surprised that you're just discussing what we discussed too. It's just that we're now 3 years later and we did a lot of things, you know, we did the design, we discussed that, we hacked software, we tried it out, we failed, we changed it, we changed the design, hacked it again, we failed, we hacked it again, we succeeded at that point and went to the next step. That is what we're actually doing, and we're just 3 years after that process now, and now we had the very first release, and now we can talk about that we actually can put solutions on the table. That was not different at all when we started like Autocrypt, you know, just discussing things 3 years ago. There was no difference. We didn't have a direction yet, we didn't have a solution yet. It's not that we just invented the wheel and it was round and it was good. Nothing like that happened. It was a hard path going through and setting that thing up, and one of the hardest things was to find the financing, to be honest. And actually it worked, you know, and now it works everything, and we can put resources on it that actually works, and we are very happy about it. And that is where we're standing now, and now we need to add more releases, and we have adapters for different programming languages, and we're in a situation that we have solutions for different platforms which actually work. And we even found a solution for that fucking, iOS platform where no PG doesn't work, you know?
So, thank you, Volker.
It's a tough thing.
How many questions do you have?
Well, I'm not going to say anything because the discussion is too interesting.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't understand anything. Please have patience with me. I was interested in the question. I'm usually the retarded in the group, so please ask with yes or no. If I receive a mail from Pep in a webmail, am I going to see garbage? Yes or no, please.
How can I answer that question? Yes or no? I don't know your browser, I don't know if you have a plugin, I don't know your environment.
I'm using wrong key.
I don't know.
Isn't that the concept of the trusted server, non-trusted server? I thought Pep has that.
I'm sorry?
The concept of the trusted server and non-trusted server, like in your settings, you can say, like this is communication with my email server, like I have my webmail running there, so I would like to have my emails there for whatever reason I'm encrypted. But, or I don't trust the server and I only want to have it like readable in a device where I like have all my stuff there. And the rest of the devices, like webmail, I would see only...
If that is a trusted server, I can answer with yes, but there is already an if, and you were asking me only use yes or no. So it's a bit complicated, I'm sorry. If you trust your server and mark that as being trusted, then the email will end up unencrypted on your server. And so you see it, even with a webmail you use in your own system, you see it unencrypted.
But if he has round queue and no PGP, no S-MIME, no nothing,
if the server is trusted, then it's still a yes. If it's untrusted, then it would be a no if you don't install a browser plugin. I know a complex answer, and I'm sorry, I don't get it smaller.
Okay, so to give Neal the possibility to give some words, what do you see are the major challenges to increase mail, so security and privacy in mail communication, and what do you think about usability?
Do I have to answer those questions? Can I just answer something else? No. I mean, everybody else did, right? So I think the most important thing is to improve the community and to build community. And I think one of the problems that we have as a community is that we tend to be very divided because we all have our own ideas of how to do things. And somehow, in the end, we're really all allies, and we shouldn't be fighting with our allies.
Immediate follow-up question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you fix the problem that he has on OS 9
I can't personally fix that. I mean, the problem is fundamentally a license problem, and we're not going to relicense GNU PG to be LGPL, it's going to stay GPL. And that's my understanding of the problem.
It's two problems. It's additionally a technical problem. You don't have processes on it.
Okay, but we can't fix the first problem, so why even think about the second problem?
Okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing. I mean, they're caring for one problem. Sorry. Can I say something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. You said the word holy grail before, right?
It was a metaphor.
Yeah. No, I'm just picking that up. I mean, first it's all about to see, like, how do we solve this problem? Like the whole net thing while we're here, like having like fixing the net, right? And thanks for this, like the note on the social factors as well. And I would even like to speak to you as a like C3 organizer with the like well, sorry. Now I get my. There's so much like political stuff going on within people who are just freaks. Like some of them are paranoid, some of them are not able to be like socially like living a world or something. So we cannot all live in harmony. And then like sorry, I'm stupid. It's like, why do we need to do like different things, solving the same problem, but then hating each other, and like trying to put one against each other?
Was there a question? Sorry.
No, sorry.
No, you paused, and I thought that you were waiting for my response. I apologize. No, you made some good points. I just thought you handed it back to me.
Yeah, no, sorry.
So you said community building is a really important step or issue, and do you have any specific things that you want to happen or that all of us here should do, or that I should do, or so could it be more concrete on how we build a better community?
And how we build better communities, I think it has a lot to do with talking. So the new PG project started 19 years ago, and for a long time it was just Werner by himself, which basically means that he was only working on plumbing and working on fixing important bugs in GNU PG. And then a couple of years ago we had this big funding campaign, and we're able to raise €250,000 from small donations, and Facebook and Stripe and the Linux Foundation all also made some big donations, and that allowed him to go ahead and have some more developers. So we're actually 5 people now, and that allowed us to expand to not only think just about GNU PG itself, but also the bigger ecosystem, and to actually do some new features. So one of these things was the web key directory, and we've also implemented a new trust model called Tofu, which you should all be familiar with from SSH. And so there's a lot of things to be building on, and individuals, or even a small group of 5 people, aren't able to do everything by themselves. And we're fighting against these huge institutions like the NSA. And there are other people out there that have slightly different ideas of how to do things correctly, but there are a lot of overlapping things that we can work on, even if our ends aren't aligned. And my sense is that in our community, we often try to figure out what are our ends, what are we really driving for. And if we find people who don't exactly agree with what our ends are, then we disagree with everything that they're doing, and we kind of refuse to collaborate on the overlapping parts. And so even though our politics aren't 100% aligned, and for instance, GNU PG is willing to take money from the BSI in order to do development, whereas PEP is not. There are a whole bunch of places where our interests are similar, even if our ends are slightly different. And we shouldn't allow these slight differences in our ends to distract us from fighting the common enemy, whose ends are completely opposite to our own. Right, we're off by like 1 degree, and these other ends, the NSA is just 180 degrees away from us.
I'd also like to add that, for example, the Autocrypt effort was only possible because there were 2 events this year, the PGP Summit and the OpenPGP Conf. And without those 2 meetings, that effort wouldn't happen. That actually shows that, you know, having meetings where people can do sessions with each other and so on can actually bring about new developments. And that was the first OpenPGP Conf. I mean, there had been a few PGP summits before, and there's also some friction, which I kind of only learned this year in organizing this. But the effect actually of this thing was that new developments and new ideas actually started from there, and people actually grouped around it and went for something. And so I think it's the question of how to better build community is actually to have places and possibilities to have this kind of communication. And I think one big problem with email in particular is that it is, I know many people, for example, from the JS community, JavaScript and Node.js and so on. And they are very, like they do WebTorrent and all kinds of very cool projects. And for many of them, I'm trying to convince them one by one. For many of them, actually, email is, you know, it's this thing from the 90s or something. It's like very old, and why do you actually still need it, and so on. So it's also, that's like a common interest to actually, that's why I was actually saying, was telling the story of like the email ID system is like not very nice, but compared to the phone number system, it's actually much better. You know, if you actually have to make a choice, I would rather go for the email system. And so I think it's true that we actually have to identify, like, okay, what's actually the visions that we actually see there and get some kind of development ongoing. And it is also a funding problem. So Volker, I can see that point of view basically, that it's also a funding problem, but it's also what's cool problem. And email is not cool. That's why the matrix channel in Autocrypt says, make email great again. You know?
May I stress another issue? So I totally agree, email is very old, and I think it will remain as long in the future as it has been in the past. So it will remain. And it is very widespread use. And the ratio of people using it and being aware of the issues is very, very small. So 90% of email users wouldn't have an idea what we are talking about right now. And they use it naturally on a day-by-day basis. And among them are groups that are highly aware of privacy in their non-electronic life. So lawyers, doctors, and so on. And they all have representatives. And none of them is aware that their peers are abusing email, unencrypted email, in a way that they would never allow on paper. So how can we improve here? Maybe it's not our task, but as a society, how can we improve here? In the awareness of those being aware about privacy.
If I may answer the question,
yeah.
Because that's one of the core questions we are discussing in PEP for years now. The good message is actually Snowden changed things, because we are talking to plenty of huge enterprises and companies, because our partners from PEP Security, which is a commercial company, are doing that. They are doing the Outlook application, you know, PEP for Outlook. I have to mention, I'm head of PEP Foundation. We are not doing application at all. We are just providing the technology to application developers. So now view that is a big customer we have, or a big partner we have to service. And actually, the enterprises I'm involved in the discussion, I can tell you that they now all are aware of the problem. And that changes the game with email totally. It changes it because if you have a look on how consumers use email, it's basically for buying things in the internet. But that means that even the consumers, I hate that term, the people, the human beings, and so on, who are doing that are all communicating with enterprises. And when the enterprises are aware of that fact, that they really need protection now, because it's also about industrial espionage, that is exactly my worry, then this is the point where we as PEP go into. This is one major money source, but it's also something else. It is when enterprises start to do it, and you can do it for buying things in the internet, and the enterprises do it between each other, then you take at least 80% of the email traffic, which is non-spam, let's say. So it's way better now, fortunately.
So the enterprises as multiplicators.
Yes.
Okay. I have one different kind of question / critique for both Autocrypt and PEP. So for the Autocrypt people, your approach is, as far as I see, we build a specification, have everybody follow, and then we're great. But we did some abstraction. And I think this will fail at the level where you go to, version 2, where you want to protect metadata, because it's going to be really complicated to implement and implement well. And we will need several iterations to get it right. And if you want to have 50 MTAs do this right, 99% of those will fail, which means none of them will get it right. So doing this by saying have a specifications of a library, I think will fail to achieve the right security level. That's my main problem with your project. Nicely, Volker compliments us by saying, don't do a specification, give a library, and then we have everybody do it right. It's like, Z compression. If you have Z compression, you will get it right. Just link against the library, will do it right for you. And that will make life for the application developers much easier and much better than having a specification. On the other, my main gripe is Volker's, that his specifications suck. So I think you both complement each other perfectly, and if you get yourself together, we'll have a good solution. Do you agree?
think there's always this kind of longing for harmony, that basically, oh, there's like this idea about something, there's this other idea. Why don't we just get together and, you know, do it together? And I think in many cases that might be the right thing. In this case, I'm not completely sure, because the approach of Autocrypt is really to have a collaboration between newer developers, and while implementing, specifying things, and having this iterative and also have usability testing in this process, and also discussions with crypto researchers. And it's not about having some code that everybody uses, right? And then the question of, so that's different from how Pep is doing that. And the other thing is metadata protection. And I think in email, I'm not convinced that I would like to try to solve metadata protection, including network attacks and stuff like this, first, before even having something like, you know, end-to-end encrypted, non-forward secret encryption going. And so that's, and I actually think it's possible to do this in level 2 without having to consider it now in detail. I think that's possible. I can't make the complete argument why, but
sorry for the pressure, but we're kicked out now. For Pep, it's a clear yes. And can I have a more complex answer? Please, no yes or no answer. I hope there will be something in between and we can work together at least at a decent point. That would be great. Thank you.
And the aim have to take over now.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you for the audience.